And today we're looking at something that seems simple, but actually isn't talking about your vacations.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about what you say, is it? It's really about how you share those experiences.
Exactly. It sounds basic, maybe even like uh, language learning 101 from some of the source material.
Yeah.
But peel back the layers, and it's fundamental human connection. It's storytelling. How do we share a piece of ourselves, our experiences, effectively?
Right. It's about building that rapport, making people actually feel something about your trip, not just hear a list of places.
Precisely. It's less about vocabulary lists and more about um, unlocking that personal narrative, making it engaging.
Okay, so here's the plan for this deep dive. We'll dig into some essential words, sure, but also the sentence patterns that really work.
The building blocks.
Exactly. And look at real examples, practical tips. The goal is that by the end, you feel, comfortable sharing your own travel stories, really sharing them.
And understand why certain ways of sharing work better than others.
All right, let's get into it. The basic building blocks first, the word.
The foundation.
So obviously you've got vacation or holiday. Pretty interchangeable, right?
Generally, yes.
Right.
Depending on where you are, maybe.
Yeah.
But the meaning's clear.
But then expressing where you went. Simple stuff like, I went to, or I visited.
Like, I went to Spain, or I visited my cousins. Straightforward.
And the verbs for activities. Our sources mention the basics. Swim, walk, eat, sleep, relax, take photos. Can't tell a story without verbs.
No, you really can't. And stay is another key one, I stayed in a hotel, or maybe I stayed with friends. Sets the scene for accommodation.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is how these incredibly simple words form the absolute bedrock of almost any travel story you can think of.
Right.
Having these basics down gives you flexibility. Even if the trip was complex, you can start simple and clear. It just, makes communication easier.
Okay, so once you have those core words, how do you actually string them together? That's where it gets interesting. Let's talk sentence structures.
The patterns.
Yeah, the really practical ones. Things like, last summer I went to. Pretty standard opening.
Or, during my vacation, sets a time frame.
And my favorite part was, that helps you highlight something specific.
Definitely. And expressing feelings is huge, isn't it? Beyond just listing facts.
Oh, absolutely. Simple phrases like, it was amazing, or I had a great time, or even just, I really enjoyed it.
And those quick answers to, how was your vacation?
Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was relaxing.
It was exciting.
Yeah.
Simple, but effective for a quick reply.
And if you think about the bigger picture here, these patterns are just invaluable. They give you a kind of framework.
Yeah, a structure.
Exactly. So you can focus on the content, the actual story bits,
Right.
rather than, wrestling with how to build a sentence from scratch every time.
That makes sense. It frees up your brain a bit.
It really does. And it raises a question, doesn't it? How much can you actually convey with just these simple phrases? Turns out, quite a lot.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Our sources had some good examples. Let's walk through them and see how these pieces fit.
Good idea.
So, first one. Someone went to Japan last month, first time visiting.
Okay.
They went to Tokyo and Kyoto, standard enough. But they mentioned trying delicious food.
The specifics start coming in.
Yeah, and taking many photos, specifically of beautiful temples.
Nice detail. Temples, photos, delicious food. Built a picture.
And they stayed for 1 week. The description said it was perfect, not too long, not too short, just right.
See, even that little detail, perfect duration, adds a layer of feeling of satisfaction. It's not just 1 week.
That's a great point. Okay, second example. A beach trip. Last summer, small beach town.
Okay, different vibe already.
Totally. Stayed in a cozy hotel near the ocean. That word cozy does a lot of work.
It really does. Immediately gives you a feeling, not just a hotel.
And the activities: swam every morning, walked on the beach in the evening,
Nice rhythm to the day.
and read books during the afternoon. The description tagged it as very relaxing.
And you feel it just hearing the description. The cozy hotel, the swimming, walking, reading. It paints a very clear picture of relaxation.
It does. And that really shows the beauty of simple language, doesn't it? Like you said, cozy hotel or delicious food in the Japan example.
Exactly. Those details make it engaging, even with basic words. It's not about using fancy vocabulary. It's about clarity and those evocative little details.
So let's think about the listener. Someone asks you about your trip. What are the common questions and how do you answer smoothly?
Right, the typical back and forth.
Where did you go for vacation? The simple answer is just, I went to. and the place.
Like, I went to Italy, done.
How was your vacation? Again, the quick answers. It was great. It was
It
fun.
was relaxing, easy.
What did you do? This is where you can use those activity verbs. I visited museums, I went shopping, maybe I spent time with family.
Straightforward answers using those core verbs we talked about.
And how long was your vacation? It was 3 days, or I was there for a week.
Yeah. Having these basic exchanges kind of mapped out in your head, it definitely reduces anxiety.
For sure.
You're prepared for the common questions, which makes it easier to then maybe open up a bit more if the conversation goes there. It's like having a starting point.
Yeah, it's a good launch pad. And our sources also broke down different types of vacations, which adds more flavor.
Ah, the categories. Useful shorthand.
Right, like beach vacation instantly tells you sun, sand, ocean.
Or city vacation. You immediately think exploring maybe museums, restaurants, New York, London, places like that.
Then there's mountain vacation, hiking, nature, maybe skiing depending on the season.
That's a completely different scene.
Family vacation is another one, implies traveling with parents, siblings, kids perhaps.
Changes the dynamic of the story you might tell.
And weekend trip, short getaway, just 2 or 3 days, manages expectations.
And knowing these categories helps you, the storyteller, set the scene really quickly for your listener.
Yeah, context.
Exactly. They get a mental image right away. Even before you dive into your specific story, it's just efficient communication.
Okay, so before we wrap this deep dive, let's pull out some final practical tips. Things to really make your vacation stories, well, better.
Let's do it.
Tip 1, from the source. Use simple past tense. I went, I saw, I ate. Keeps it clear and focused on what happened.
Solid advice. Keeps the timeline straightforward.
Tip 2, don't obsess about perfect grammar. Focus on communication, getting your experience across.
Yes. This is crucial. It brings up that question again, right? Perfection versus connection.
Totally.
When you're sharing something personal, like a travel story, connection almost always wins. People respond to the enthusiasm, the feeling, not necessarily the flawless grammar.
Absolutely. Tip 3, use describing words. We talked about this, but words like beautiful, delicious, interesting, even boring, if something genuinely was, adds color.
Adjectives give life to the nouns and verbs. Makes it sensory.
And tip 4, practice. Simple as that. Ask people at their trips, share yours. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Practice is key. Each time you tell it, you kind of refine it, don't you? You figure out what parts land, what details people find interesting.
Definitely. You learn what makes a good story by telling it.
It's like editing your own narrative in real time, based on feedback, even subtle feedback.
Okay, so let's give you, our listener, a mini practice session right now. Just think about it.
Yeah, try it out mentally.
Where did you go for your last vacation? Just picture it. What was your absolute favorite activity during that trip?
What really stands out?
And how did you feel about the vacation overall? Try to use a word beyond just good. Was it relaxing, adventurous, eye-opening?
Remember those simple sentences, but maybe add one of those descriptive words we talked about.
You're doing great just thinking it through.
Absolutely.
So we really hope this deep dive has given you maybe not just information, but a bit of a shortcut to feeling more confident, more equipped to share your travel stories.
And maybe to see the art in it, too.
Yes. Remember, the goal isn't just listing off places or activities. It's about inviting people into your experience, creating that connection.
It really underscores how even these everyday communication tools, these simple ways of talking about a trip, can have a big impact on how we connect and understand each other.
Yeah.
Sharing a story, even a simple vacation story, it genuinely builds bridges. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to consider. What other everyday conversations, maybe things that seem mundane, could actually be made richer, more engaging if you applied this same kind of thinking? This idea of finding the core message, the evocative details, the narrative structure.
That's a great question. Thinking about how we share experiences beyond just travel.
Exactly. Where else can we elevate simple sharing into real connection?
Something to definitely mull over. Keep exploring, keep learning, and please keep sharing your adventures. We really appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks for joining us.